Somehow, the people of UP appear to have been convinced, not only the people of UP but also Uttarakhand, appear to have been convinced that here is a Robin Hood moment, that the rich have been robbed in order to give it to the poor. It's just completely untrue. But Mussolini showed, Hitler showed, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto showed, and now Narendra Modi has shown. I think Congress has been failing in Uttar Pradesh since 1990. Here, it was a last-minute alliance with a party that was in the process of disintegration. But I think the lesson to be learned for us is the lesson that has been articulated already by the following leaders: Mamata Banerjee, Nitish Kumar, Lalu Prasad Yadav, Akhilesh Yadav, M.K. Stalin, Sitaram Yechuri, Sharad Pawar, Sharad Yadav. There's already a Farooq Abdullah. There's already a sea of voices saying the only way we can stop the BJP tsunami, as it's being called, is by bringing together, to the extent possible, the 70% Indians who did not vote for Modi at the height of his powers, and the 60% UP-walas who haven't voted for Modi at the height of this last UP election. Now, can they be brought together? We have to see. But we cannot see unless we start the process. And since so many voices have said yes, there are two critical voices that are still to join that chorus. One is that of the Congress. And I'd like to see Rahul Gandhi sooner, much sooner than later, accept this as the strategy for the immediate future and declare himself in favor of a great alliance, perhaps a grand alliance. The other is somehow promoting a realization, a recognition on the part of Mayawati that at this juncture, it's more important for her to be with Akhilesh, who has indicated already that he's willing to join hands with her, than to continue fighting a losing battle on her own. And therefore, there is a feasibility to what I'm saying, but obviously there will be an extended process of negotiation, at the end of which the key question that seems to trouble a lot of the media can be answered, which is who will lead the alliance. You ask it today, you're sabotaging the alliance. You give the answer several months or perhaps a year down the line, and you've got the answer. At the same time, and this is absolutely crucial, I think in the Congress party, we should stop having two major voices at the top.
Okay.
Ever since Rahul Gandhi became the vice president, he has been the vice president and therefore has to repeatedly take the responsibility for election setbacks, but he's not been the president. So therefore, the people who constitute what you may call the Sonia Gandhi team are not necessarily the Rahul Gandhi team. Were he to become the president, I'm sure a number of those in the Sonia Gandhi team would be retained. But he would have a choice for who would in totality constitute the Rahul Gandhi team. That is very necessary and cannot happen unless he becomes the president.
Right.
But by itself, this will give us no result. What
The current situation.
If you just make Rahul the president and allow him to put his team in place, that is not going to give us the results we see. We have to follow through, and in the shortest possible time, certainly by the end of the year, what Rahul has been saying publicly as well as in several party meetings, that he would like to see the democratization of the party from the lowest levels to the highest levels. So we must have block presidents selected by the primary members of the Congress party. We must have the district presidents equally so chosen. We must also have elections, free, fair, open elections for the state president instead of him or her being nominated from the center. We need the PCC members, the Pradesh Congress Committee members, to be elected, not nominated, and that they in turn would elect the All India Congress Committee as provided for in the Constitution. With such a strong base, we should then move, and I'm saying within this year, to restoring a key element of the Congress Constitution which has been breached for the last 20 years. That is the election of half the Congress Working Committee by the AICC. In Narasimha Rao's time it was done. In Kesari's time it was done. But ever since then, all 20 members of the Congress Working Committee have been nominated by the President. It was regarded as clever politics. I think they were able to say we have proved we are right by the fact that Sonia Ji was behind both UPA 1 and UPA 2. But now, after 2014, that argument no longer applies. The Congress Constitution has ensured stability at the High Command level by saying that the President will nominate 10 members.
Okay.
So along with himself or herself, there is an inbuilt majority. But you have 10 voices that come from the Congress as such. And therefore, we need to go back to what was done in 92 in Tirupati and 97 in Kolkata. That to fight elections, Congress candidates for Parliament should be declared 6 months in advance, and MLAs candidates 3 months in advance, was endorsed by the CWC.
So why is it...
And has never been implemented.
Why? Again and again this kind of a thing has been recommended.
Well,
why has Congress not...
Well, why? Don't ask me the question why. Ask me the question, what has happened in consequence?
Yeah.
What has happened in consequence is 2014. We had got used to a legacy in which we said Mahatma Gandhi, we didn't need to say anything else. We then said Jawaharlal Nehru. For 17 years we didn't have to say anything else. Then we said Indira Gandhi, and except for one election, that was enough. Then in 1984 we just had to say Rajiv Gandhi, and that was enough. So an ethos grew under which we wanted the locomotive to pull the rest of the train, and were concerned only with the locomotive. Now that the locomotive no longer has, and has not had for 25 years, the kind of pulling power it used to have, we obviously have to start looking at the carriages.
Exactly.
And that being so, Rahul Gandhi, who is the latest recruit to the leadership of the party, has, since he got elected in 2004, been saying that he wants to democratize the party. And when he was in charge of the Youth Congress and the Student Congress, he actually did it, and he succeeded in having about half a dozen primaries held before the 2014 election. Now, to my mind, it was impossible to democratize front organizations without democratizing the party. And I think Rahul realizes this. So, as far as I can see, Rahul has a very definitive program of democratization, which is perhaps opposed by several members of the existing High Command. I say that inductively. You cannot democratize the top unless you democratize the bottom, because then it becomes a fixed election. I think we must have an election for president. And the person who has preceded me in saying this publicly is a guy called Rahul Gandhi, who has insisted that the president must be elected. I foresee one problem. where is the congressman who will stand against Rahul? Who is going to bell the cat?
But
because the last time a mouse stepped forward to bell the cat was in 2000 when Jitender stood in an election against Sonia Gandhi. He got 94 votes, she got 9,400. So therefore, you'll have to find someone within the Congress who wants to stand against Rahul. I don't. I don't think anybody, I can't see anybody in the Congress party who would want to stand against Rahul.
Why is it so?
Because we know that this is the bond, this family is the bonding adhesive of our party. Under Sonia, whatever our victories, whatever our defeats, and they've been both, in large measure, in the states as well as the centre, the Congress has held together. It's held together, we know it. And maybe the opposition knows it, that they cannot get a Congress Mukt Bharat until they get a Gandhi Mukt Congress. So therefore, what has happened in 2014 was not a rejection of the Congress policy. It was a rejection of the Congress going it alone, whereas there was an endorsement of the Congress leading a rainbow alliance in 2004 and 2009. I am asking for a replication of the Sonia Gandhi model in 2019 with this difference that the Congress that led that alliance in 2004 and 9 was not a democratically elected Congress. Now, in order to be strong in this new alliance where the charisma of the Congress leader is going to be much lower than it even was in 2004, we must have a democratically elected Congress for it to be as strong as an oak. So that neither Jaitley, representing the settled government, nor this lady, representing the high constitutional office of governor, had either any knowledge of the Bombay judgment or perhaps deliberately transgressed what was there. This was not anticipated by the Congress. The single biggest fault of the Congress in Goa, and I'll come to Manipur in a minute, was that we thought that these were gentlemen. They were not. Second, in all these matters, pockets count. And clearly the depth of the BJP pocket was down to its ankles, or perhaps even lower. We've gone wrong principally in thinking they'll play by the rules of the game. And they didn't. And I'm not saying they didn't. The governor in question, suo moto, is saying that to the Goa press. That I called Arun Jaitley. Please tell me in which constitution of India, which judgment of the Supreme Court, which law it is written that a governor will consult the finance minister of India to decide to do what according to the constitution has to be done to the satisfaction of the governor. Not the satisfaction of Arun Jaitley. I think the Congress party in Manipur and the observers sent from Delhi were underestimating the rise of the BJP in that state and how they had consolidated that divided opposition vote that had kept Ibobi in power for 15 years. And unfortunately for Ibobi, it was at the time when anti-incumbency in terms of governance had reached a peak. And it usually does after 3 elections, unless your name is Naveen Patnaik. It had reached its peak. And politically, there was this subterranean move to unite people and the discovery that somebody from Jiribam, which is it is so far from the center that it is almost regarded like Mahe or Yanam as an outpost of Pondicherry. This too is regarded as an outpost of Manipur. And the man was a confidant for many years of Ibobi. The BJP, congratulations to them, if we can have unethical politics, succeeded in getting him on their side. And it is only because they got him on their side that they succeeded in making a majority. So what was going wrong in Manipur has been going wrong for several years before the election outcome. Now, at the time of the election outcome, almost all the breakaways were people who'd broken away from the Congress or from Ibobi personally. Getting them around was a task of Sisyphus. You pushed the rock up the mountain, and the minute you thought you'd succeeded and left your hand, the rock would roll back. And this is what is happening with these people. So there was a supreme effort made to somehow get to the majority, which they missed by a couple of seats. And then in the new circumstances, it was easier for the BJP to gather together all those who were dissatisfied with the Congress and who had in fact pulled away from the Congress, combined with the fallout of the division of the Naga districts. And how quickly the chameleon can change colors is shown by the fact that Biren Singh, as the new chief minister, has announced that he is not going to interfere with the process of the division of the Naga districts. So therefore, yes, things were going against us. They would have gone wrong with us in any case. And that we came so close to victory was, I think, important equally, and replaced by people who will fail even more. The Congress party got 44 seats in 2014. If we had had a divided leadership, we'd have got 4. I agree with you that general secretaries who don't deliver, or special representatives, sometimes they are appointed over and above, that if they don't deliver in circumstances where otherwise it could have been delivered, yes, you can take those steps. But if we are faced with an impossible situation in which the outcome is what could have been predicted earlier, or if it is some personal negligence that has led to this, or some act of favoritism that has had an adverse result, then I can understand people being moved, and they have been moved. Or sometimes they moved themselves. As far as the persons who are being used in several states are concerned, it certainly is the prerogative of the president, because all general secretary positions are nominees. They are not elected positions. So they serve at the pleasure of the president. So if the president is persuaded that the individual did not live up to what he was supposed to do, then certainly action should be taken in the name of accountability. But if we had an elected leadership, then that leadership can also be consulted as to whether failure should be pinned on one or several individuals, or whether there was a general failure of the atmosphere.